On December 10, 1941, off the coast of Malaya, the two most powerful British warships in the Far East were sailing without air cover. The force was called Force Z. At its core were two major ships, the new battleship HMS Prince of Wales and the battlecruiser HMS Repulse. Britain had sent them east to help stop Japan's advance toward Malaya and Singapore. The message was clear. The Royal Navy had arrived. But this force had one fatal problem. No aircraft carrier, no fighter escort, no continuous air cover. From the surface, Force Z still looked terrifying. Prince of Wales had heavy armor and big guns. Repulse was fast. The crews were trained. By the old logic of naval power, ships like these were not just weapons. They were deterrents. But the Japanese did not see deterrents. They saw a large target with no protection overhead. Force Z was not stopped by another battle fleet. The enemy that found it came from the sky. The problem was not that Britain had never heard of air power. The problem was that British commanders still believed battleships could survive on speed, armor, and anti-aircraft guns. And then, Japanese reconnaissance found them. At that moment, the two British capital ships were still moving. They were not on fire. They had not lost speed. They had not yet been hit, but the situation had already changed. They were no longer just warships. They were coordinates. Japanese land-based aircraft began to take off. These aircraft did not need to fight a gunnery duel with battleships. They did not need to challenge the main guns. They did not need to punch through the thickest armor belt. They only needed to get low, close in, and put torpedoes below the waterline. The strongest parts of a battleship were above the surface main guns, our armor, bridge, anti-aircraft batteries. But torpedoes went after what mattered below the waterline: propeller shafts, steering gear, engine spaces. Once water gets in there, a giant ship does not die immediately. It slows down first, then it loses the ability to turn. Then it becomes easier and easier to hit. When the first attacks came in, Force Z was still maneuvering. Repulse, especially, was agile. She used speed and hard turns to avoid several torpedo tracks. Japanese aircraft came in low. Anti-aircraft guns opened up. White wakes cut across the water near the ships. At that point, the British still had reason to believe they could survive. The ships were still running. The guns were still firing. The torpedoes had not pinned them down. But a multi-direction torpedo attack does not ask one question. It asks several at once. Bombers pull attention in one direction. Torpedo planes come in low from another. A ship avoids one track, and another is already cutting in from the other side. A warship can dodge the first attack. It cannot dodge forever. The hit that changed the battle came early against Prince of Wales. A torpedo struck near the stern, damaging the propeller shaft and steering area. For a battleship, this was not just another hole. When a shaft is damaged, seawater can follow the shaft line into the ship. When steering is damaged, the ship turns more slowly. When speed drops, the ship begins to lose the fight. Prince of Wales was not blown apart in one strike. She was slowed, then trapped. That was the real reversal in Force Z. Britain had sent battleships. Japan attacked their ability to move and turn. Without maneuver, armor was no longer safety. Without air cover, anti-aircraft guns could only fire once the attackers were already close. Without fighters to stop Japanese aircraft farther out, the torpedo bombers could keep coming back. Repulse was still fighting to survive. She used speed to avoid some of the attacks. But more Japanese torpedo planes pressed in. They came from different angles. The anti-aircraft fire was split. The ship's turning space got smaller. Then a torpedo hit. Water entered the hull. The list began to grow. Speed fell. More attacks followed. Repulse sank. Prince of Wales was also losing control. She was still a massive battleship. She still had armor. She still had guns. But none of that could restore her maneuverability. Flooding, mechanical damage, and repeated air attacks dragged the ship toward the same end. Prince of Wales sank as well. Force Z had been sent to the Far East as a symbol of British power. Its job was to show Japan that Singapore and Malaya still had the Royal Navy behind them. Instead, it failed to stop Japan and became evidence for a new age of warfare. The cold part of this battle is that the British sailors did fight. The battleships were not fragile. They fired back, maneuvered, carried out damage control, and fought until the end. But without air cover, they were forced to wait for enemy aircraft to come within range. And the Japanese did not have to kill them in one blow. They only had to slow them down first, then take away their ability to turn. After that, every next attack became easier. When Force Z went down, an old assumption went down with it that capital ships could rely on armor, guns, and reputation to operate safely inside the range of enemy air power. After that day, a giant ship at sea without aircraft overhead was no longer a secure fortress. It was just a very large target. If you want more stories about naval warfare, air strikes, and the weapons that changed the rules of war, follow the channel and visit the homepage for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.